what do you recommend, right? I think you brought up an interesting point is you can come into a smaller company and be the manager of sales or director of sales and report to the CEO, or you can go for more of a mid-sized company where you're lost in the shuffle more, but you have more resources available to you. I mean, do you have a recommendation working with candidates? I mean, in terms of career growth and opportunities, is it better to go for that smaller company or more mid-sized, more established company where you may have to, be farther away from the CEO and the action, but it provides some other benefits. I don't know if you typically guide people in one direction over the other.
Yeah, there's not really one kind of blanket answer in terms of what's, quote unquote better or worse or right or wrong. It's just it's a very individual type decision. And I think, the broader question and the broader topic I would bring up is, make sure that you spend the time throughout your career, no matter, where you are, early on, middle, or towards the end, spend the time, take the time to take a bit of an inventory and figure out, where you thrive. Some people, spend their entire careers working at IBM or Nike or Johnson and Johnson. And then after, 15, 20 years, they say, I want to make a change. And maybe they take an early package or they go through a downsizing or they just decide to leave on their own for something new. And they say, I want to work at a smaller company. Well, the chances are pretty much 90% of the companies that are out there are going to be smaller than IBM or J&J or Nike, right? So, understand what that means in terms of what smaller is, but more importantly, B, is understand the differences in the dynamic and the operating style and communication style and how quickly things move and how agile things are, how difficult or easy it is for decisions to get made. Understand that there's a pretty significant difference between the 10, $50 billion companies out there and a company that's doing only 50 million. Things just move at a very, very different pace. And people might say they want to work at a smaller company because, to your point, they don't want to be that, that kind of small fish in a very large pond, but they don't quite realize how different things really are. They don't realize that they're so accustomed to having the policies and procedures and structure in place and really kind of the resources also at their disposal at those really large, Fortune 100, Fortune 1000 companies. When you compare that to a company that's a fraction of the size, it's very different. And you've got to be willing to be very scrappy or resourceful and very hands-on in those smaller businesses. So as you move through your career, and I recommend folks that are early on in their career that they start taking a bit of a professional inventory at each step along the way and figure out, okay, what did I like about this? What didn't I like? What was good about this in terms of how I interacted with my boss, who my boss was, what their background was, how big was the team around me, what was my peer group, did I enjoy working for a company where things weren't very buttoned up and it was a little bit more kind of the wild, wild west, a bit chaotic, like in a startup or early stage company? Or did I actually prefer working for an IBM or a J&J where things were more structured? Yeah, maybe I didn't have as much say in the final decision. I wasn't as strategic, but I liked the fact that it was more predictable and more, consistent as far as the day-to-day operation. So it's just really a matter of taking the time to get to know yourself.